What's up, you guys? This is Johnny back here at MyMixEngineer.com, and welcome to Mixing Drums and Bass with UAD.
Yeah, my girls, I know they're kinda crazy. Told me to go and take another shot. I don't even drink, but somehow this crowd is just all that you got.
Alright, starting
So go
with
ahead and
drums
give it to
and
me.
bass.
Where all my homies, did you give it?
Let's take a listen right quick. I just have it already looped up for you. Let's take a listen. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to make my moves only to what I hear. So what I want right now is the bass, the 808s, and the Moog bass and the kick to gel very well. I want to get that foundation, a nice lit round bottom. All right, so I will start with my kick typically. What I hear, I want to make that round. So let's go with the SSL channel strip, and which will be the SSL E. Silver. Let's engage it. So I just made a a low shelf boost around 100 hertz, just to give the kick a nice accent roundness and fatness to it. All right, so I probably would go around this 2.5K for more punch, but the kick already is punchy, so I don't want to reach around there. So I want to bring out the click into the kick. So let's sweep around like 3 to 4.5K. All right, some subtle movements just make the kick sound rounder and have a nice little attack to it. So let's take a listen to it without. And with. Let's go ahead and do like a low pass. Just go ahead and get rid of a lot of the top, so the snare and vocals, it doesn't interfere with them. All right, so following that up, let's go ahead and make sure that it's gelling with the bass. What I typically like to do is just go ahead and copy this over. And instead of giving it that 100, let's boost around 50. Let's bring everything back. All right, so now with the Moog bass, it has a nice little round to it, and you still hear the body of the kick. With this Moog, I wanted to have a little more growl. So I wanted, maybe that's what I'm saying, is like more in the mid-range area. So I'm gonna sweep around, probably around like 200 to 8 to find that growling of that Moog bass. All right, so subtle movements without it. This is what it sounds like. And with it. So what I'm doing is trying to round off everything. I don't want everything to sound too bright already at the foundation. All right. So let's copy this over, but oh no, I can't copy that over. Let's add another SSL. Let's jump to where the 808 is, loop that part. All right, so there, now that the 808 has a nice little round, I've started to feel a little rumble going on. Some people may think it's excessive, but I like the texture of it. It got like a hip hop type of foundation, so that's what I'm going for. So I'm trying to find an area where there's a lot of energy in that bass. And of course it's around the mid-rangey area. So it seems like it's around like 100. So I'm gonna boost up there pretty wide. And without it, with it again. All right, so it gave it a more of a gritty texture to it. With the kick, let's round it off a little bit more. Following the SSL, maybe go with a pull tech. Get on down here too, yeah. All right. Maybe 60. Let's go 3. Let's start with, I say 3 and 3. Well, at 60, I think that's gonna be a little too much, but I want to exaggerate a little bit more. I'm gonna exaggerate this more for you. All right, listen what happens when I exaggerate, a boost around 60 hertz on a kick. All right, so now you feel like every time that kick hit, you feel that weight come through. It kind of, to me, it feels like it hits you in your chest. All right, so it's more of a feeling. All right, so the 3K area is that clicky to make the so you can hear the beater of the bass and stuff, especially so it really cut through on laptop speakers. All right. So let's take a listen to it without it. And with. All right, so following that up, we have two snares. We have a snare 1 and snare 2, which is a blend. So let's take a listen to it and see what each brings. All right, so it seems like this open hi-hat, that's what it's labeled, that's more of like a sizzle that they added onto the snare. So I'm gonna leave that as it is. But let's work on this snare blend. So snare 1 is more of a body, snare 2 is more of the crackle, the top end of it. So I wanted to crack a little bit more. All right, so on the body, let's use the SSL as well. And let's go, let's say, I'm gonna probably boost around the 200 range at a bell. All right, so now you hear the body of that snare. You have a little more round body, bottom end to it. So without it, take a listen. And with it. All right, and I know some people may be wondering like why I'm making all these changes with everything going, because I want to hear what I'm doing, the changes that I'm making in context. All right, so following that, because I don't like to do too much, let's get this top end, and I always reach for the API 550A, especially when I want to get this top end on snares. So let's leave it at 10K and boost it probably like 4 dB and around 400 to exaggerate more of that mid-rangey area of it. Let's go around 2. Take a listen without it. And with it. All right, so I want to probably back off a little bit on this 200 on the body of this one. All right, so following that, let's quickly hit save. And with the bass and the kick, I like to, as you can see, like the Moog has a little parallel going on, and I'm sending my bass to the drum parallel, which helps round it off. So let's kind of copy this over. Let's take a listen. All right, without it. Back and with it, and what were we trying to do? You're listening and you hear like the bass start to sound thicker and rounder. All right, so now we got a nice even distribution between the bass and the kick, and you pretty much can hear both of them. Luckily, I'm fortunate enough to have a 808 in bass and kick that pretty much kind of gel together pretty easily. All right, so with these hi-hats, I hear one hi-hat that I really feel like I would mess with. The rest of it, I think I will just pretty much leave it alone. All right, so this sizzling hat is just sizzling a little too much. This hat right here. It just sounds messy. So I'm just gonna kind of round it off. And what I like to do with hi-hats in this case, basically add some saturation to it. So I would most likely would go with the Studer. And I really want to round it off. So I go with like a lower tape speed. So I go around like the 7.5. Let's blend it around. And let's go with the GP9. Take a listen. All right, so listen to the top end sizzle of it. It's not as messy. It rounded it off. All right, take a listen without it. And with it. All right, so let's listen to everything a little in content and make sure that we kind of gel in pretty well. All right, that sounds great to me. I know that this the drum feel right here. It's called a drop, but it's pretty much a drum feel. Let's take a listen to it. I actually like the roundness of it. And listen to how that snare and going into our regular snare. All right, I like the transition of the snare. I don't want the snares to sound the exact same, but I like how the snare on here the snare on the drop sound more, a vintage sound and snare than going into a modern crack, bam, in your ear snare. All right. All right, so I tend to sometimes if the drums were drier, I probably add them into like a drum room. But the sound selection that the producer used is fine because everything has a nice gelled ambience already. As you can hear, like this hi-hat sizzle brings out the tail end of the snare. Then with how he have the shakers and the other hi-hats, it adds a little ambience to the actual drums. So that would be it for the drums, you guys. Keeping it simple. I'm not gonna mess with too much stuff because the hardest part of mixing is to learn to really leave things alone. All right. So until next time, remember, mixing is an art. Be you, stay true. I'm out. Well, I ain't out. I'm still here, but you know.